here we are yet again. I wasn't planning on doing a second video, and I would have liked to have done a live stream, but I've had some difficulties with YouTube the last couple of days. If you don't know me, I'm Suzanne Titkemeyer. I used to write a column for Pathos for nearly 10 years called No Longer Quivering. I wrote about Quiverfull families, Quiverfull theology, evangelical churches, all sorts of different things. Okay, I'm going to ask you to do the YouTubey things even if we're not live. I'm not getting to interact with you guys, which I'm going to try to start doing a premiere specifically so I can go in and talk to you guys until they get this straightened out. These are just my opinions based upon years of research and various things, but they are still opinions. And you're free to do your own research, as Runell says, and discover what the truth is. You gotta excuse me, it's the end of a long day here, and I am feeling beat up, but I've got to do this. Okay, don't bully anybody I talk about. Don't be rude and nasty in the comments. That's all I ask. I think those are really small things to ask, and thank you for watching. Okay, I wasn't going to do a second video at all today. I was just going to go lay up in that bed and rest for a while after I did a little sewing. Ended up yakking to family members, doing a little cooking, and preparing to make applesauce. When this popped up, I started having people PMing me, giving me screen caps of Katherine's latest video and the comments and some of the things that she shared. I'm not sure she did a video on it. I'm sure she did, but I can't say for 100% certainty. But basically, it was about some property that Jim Bob owns. Jim Bob Duggar. Meat, potatoes, bread, and butter for our least favorite YouTuber. You know who we're talking about. We're talking about KJ of Without a Crystal Ball. Okay, she said these things, and I just have to do a little explaining on top of the things she said, because that's one of the things I get irked with her when she starts covering the Duggars and the Quiverfull movement, because she doesn't know what the heck she's talking about half the time. She doesn't understand the theology. She's not lived it. She's not been part of a Quiverfull CULT like I was for some years. Okay, so it came out that Jim Bob Duggar has rented some property to a Pentecostal church. Okay, it's a trailer that Abby and John used to live in, with a building next door that used to host John David's, I guess this is EMS training, where he was with the Medicorps training. They used to host it in that building. So now this building and this trailer are being leased. This is according to property records, because we know Katherine loves her property records. She loves them, loves them, loves them. Leased by Jim Bob Duggar to a Pentecostal church, ANIG, Iman, EMMAN, Assemblies of God. Pentecostal. Okay, well, we could split hairs and debate whether Assemblies of God are Pentecostal or not. In my world, you have Pentecostal churches, you have Assemblies of God churches, you have Independent Fundamentalist Baptists, you have Old Family Christian Baptists, you have these different, my point is you have all these different sects. And even within a denomination, you can have all these different sects. There are all these different splits, all the different things. But here's the thing. She goes on to really make some statements about this that I just have to demock. So she says that the church pastor is an immigrant from the Marshall Islands. It has a large Marshallese congregation. My understanding is there is already a large Marshallese population there. I'm not really sure why. There was I think, state senator out west that got into a lot of trouble because he was importing pregnant Marshallese girls and women to the Springdale area to give birth, and he was able to adopt out the children. There was a whole long investigation about that, and that's really what I thought the Josh Duggar thing was about. I thought he may have been involved in that because it turned out to be a pretty big thing, and I didn't realize until I started doing research to write about it that there's already this large Marshallese community there. Maybe not huge, but there's a community there of people from the Marshall Islands. Who would have thought it? Rural Arkansas, not the big city. Well, apparently. So anyway, she was reading through the records and said the Secretary of State showed that it wasn't active. Looks pretty active to me. The photos that were shown have various vehicles outside. I don't know how active they are. It doesn't really matter. My problem I have with the things that Katherine has said is that she's gone on from here, which is okay, everything she's said so far, except that I think property searches are pretty tacky for the most part, unless, you have a legitimate reason to do so. And I'm not sure that obsessing over the Duggars is a good enough excuse. I don't do property searches. I have if I'm researching something that is, oh my, I'm sorry. My ADD is kicking in. I'm watching a cat and monkeys outside interact, and that's pretty weird. It's behind my guest house. Okay, enough. Side ramble. Must drink water. So she goes on to make a lot of claims about Pentecostals, Assemblies of God, how she cannot understand how Jim Bob was leaving his group of beliefs to allow these people with their different group of beliefs in. And I know she said a bunch of times that the Duggars are independent fundamentalist Baptist. They have gone to those churches before. They home church for a lot of years. That's non-denominational. If you home church, that wouldn't be considered independent fundamentalist Baptist. That would be considered, like I said, more non-denom. I saw a lot of that in Virginia, where I am from. The whole thing with the Pentecostal and the Assemblies of God split is just ridiculous. They are two different sects most of the time. Most of the time, you don't say that they're Pentecostal. The Pentecostal church is a thing. And here's where she's wrong. She's saying that Jim Bob is defying all of his own beliefs, his own Christian beliefs, in order to, sorry, I'm going nuts here, defying his own Christian beliefs to rent this place out to Pentecostals, Assemblies of God. Please. Assemblies of God are also sometimes part of the ATIIBLP. Quiverfull cuts across so many borders. There's so many borders this cuts across, where you may have a Pentecostal church, an IFB church, an Assemblies of God, a Southern Baptist. I even know Catholic Quiverfull. And I've known people from every denomination in the world you can think of that have used ATIIBLP. So it's not just what she's saying. He's not crossing any borders. They're all together in one giant thing. And at that point, the denominations don't matter so much. She was saying, he's speaking in tongues? Let me tell you, speaking in tongues is big in Quiverfull. So many Quiverfull conferences I went to, it was huge. I remember one time I went to the what was that called? Brownsville Assembly of God, and the Brownsville Revival in Pensacola, and took a how to speak in tongues seminar because I had never done it, didn't know how to do it. And it was pretty obvious after an hour or two, they weren't going to let me go until I spoke in tongues. So I managed to squeeze out a few odd sounding syllables, and they finally let me go. And it always struck me as silly, but I know there are some people that is their thing. They think that all churches should have that. They should have speaking in tongues. Well, So she's acting like this is weird. The beliefs from Assemblies of God would be completely contrary to what Jim Bob Duggar and his family believe and practice. That is just not so. Like I said, there's going to be some commonalities and there's going to be some things that are different. But what she's missing about the Duggars is they're basically have been non-denominational for many, many years. Quiverfull, IBLP, those things cut across so many denominational lines that they would consider both the Pentecostals and Assemblies of God to be brothers in Christ. And that's really what this is all about. Brotherhood in Christ. So there's unity in those things. So don't let her tell you that Jim Bob Duggar has somehow compromised what he's believing. What he's believing, and a lot of what Quiverfull is, shifts from time to time. And it encompasses a whole lot of things. I mean, when I talk a whole lot of things, I mean a whole lot of things. It encompasses so many different ideologies and beliefs. Some people believe in Quiverfull that it's King James only. Some believe the New International Version is okay. It just really depends. So don't think that this is Jim Bob going, this is just business as usual. Business as usual for the Duggars. And really not even anything to be concerned about. I got to give Jim Bob credit. He's making that mad rent money. That's not a bad thing in this economy to be doing because rents have skyrocketed. The value of property has skyrocketed. Costs have skyrocketed. So now that the show is ended, he has to find another way to feed his family. Renting out property to show is not a bad way at all. In fact, buying property is a good way to build wealth. Now, Jim Bob Duggar has a lot of stupid stuff that is not really wealth building, but he has been extremely smart in his real estate purchases as far as I have seen. I can't fault him for that at all. Okay, I'm going to go. I'm Suzanne Titkemeyer. I'm sorry this is not live. I would love to see you guys live and interact with you. I'm going to go ahead and put this up as a premiere, and I will be in chat specifically for that while it's a premiere. Okay, you guys. I probably won't see you tomorrow because I've done 2 today, and I'm still struggling with my stupid self. So I just had to correct this because when I saw this, it was like, oh my word. She is saying all this stuff about them and how he's having to compromise himself. Again, I'm going to say this. Katherine does not know Quiverfull. She does not know the theology. She claims to be taking down cults, but this is nothing of the sort. This is nothing of the sort. I'll see you guys later.